Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sprint Car Nights. I am Josh Gerlach. I'm here with Blake Walker, and we are joined by one of the greatest to do it at the Chili Bowl, Mr. Kevin Swindell. Very happy to have you, man. It's been quite the weather. We were just talking leading into this that you guys are trying to keep your house from freezing over, but we've got a pretty chill, calm, not very busy couple of weeks, huh?
Yeah, came home to not much fun, so haven't even just dumped all the water out of the cars before we left the expo, and they were sitting in the trailer right now, so waiting to tackle that mess at some point.
Hey, it could be a lot worse. At least the Chili Bowl wasn't like the last week, because I don't even know what kind of a disaster that would have been for everybody trying to unload out of that place. But very excited to have you on, man. Before we get started, make sure everybody you subscribe to the Team Netcode channel. Also, make sure we just dropped yesterday a video with Brian Brown, our first Knoxville Nights episode on Dirt Vision. So make sure you check that out. Follow Team Netcode on all of the social media platforms. We do have some general kind of sprint car related news. We can touch on that here as we round the show out, but we'll kind of dive into you, Kevin. We'll start with the Chili Bowl, and then it's gonna be a journey for everything else that we talk about here. So if anybody doesn't know, you are a four straight Chili Bowl champion. You won those from 2010 to 2013. You're also a 3-time Chili Bowl champion owner. You've won 3 of the last 4 with 2 different drivers. Our Knoxville fans probably remember you won the Capitani Classic back in 2013.
Yeah.
World of Outlaws All-Star winner. You won USAC National Sprint Cars, USAC Midgets. Pretty much done it all. So to kind of get the Chili Bowl talk going here, you had the Race of Champions on Monday. We'll skip past that, but really turned a lot of heads with one Jet Barnes, youngster, going on Tuesday. Tell us about just how that all came together. You guys went 5-2 in your heat race, qualifier 5-3, and then the story of the night really blew up social media. He went 9-3, and just was a lot of fun to watch. Tell us how that kind of all came together, and yeah, everything there.
Yes, so we've known him since he was like 7 or 8 from the shootout one year, and have kind of helped him along. Obviously, he hasn't, till you're like 12 or so, you really don't do much with the junior sprints and stuff and restricted. And he kind of just kept winning races out there, and we've kept up with him. And me and his dad have become really good friends over the years. And I've tried to kind of manage how they do stuff and where they sort of spend what money they do have to spend on his racing and things like that over the last few years. And trying to tell him, if the kid had it, that he's going to have it. Like, whether or not you race 60 times a year, we race 12 or 15 times a year. So it kind of got to the point this spring where, like, the micros, it wasn't doing him much good. He could win the races with those guys out west, and he's made the outlaw race of the shootout like the last 3 or 4 years, even as young as he is. And so they kind of put all that stuff away and went sprint car racing a little bit this year, and knew they couldn't afford to do it long term, I think. And we kind of got to a point where we got through this, and I was like, if I can figure out a way to do this without, like, burning a hole in my pocket, I'll get you a Chili Bowl car. And I've had a spare car or frame, at least, for the last few years, and like, we updated some stuff on Logan's car to some new stuff, and just kind of pieced together and kept doing it and kept finding little bits here and there. And like, John Christian helped me out a little bit and some stuff like that, and got the car together for him to do this. And honestly, I didn't know what he was going to do. Obviously, he's done well in the 360, but there's been ups and downs. And like, a lot of these kids can run good by themselves, but when it comes to like navigating a heat race from the 3rd or 4th row, that was where I was worried whether, what we would do when it came time. Sunday when we practiced, he made really good laps. Like, he went out early in those first ones, and it's kind of wet, and he drove it kind of to the point of like, is that thing going to tip over almost, and didn't have any trouble. And, that made me more comfortable. And then we got a really, really slick one at the end, and, he made really good laps against the fence. And it's like, all right, so we've got by ourselves thing is no problem. Obviously, he's only ran a midget one time at Ventura, a completely different animal. So I knew if we I was thinking we get the front of a heat race, we get decent points, we get like the front, maybe third of a qualifier, we get through, and then we'll run okay in a prelim night. It was like my expectation. And, as soon as he kind of drove through that heat race, it was like, okay, there's more here. And then, really ran a great qualifier. I think if we'd run second, we'd have been on the pole of the features, the sad part, but I think we ran into like RTJ and Landon Brooks or something in front of us in the qualifier and just didn't quite get enough to make a run on Landon to get by him. But sucked to start ninth after it felt like what was really good. But when he started running the laps around the bottom like he did kind of once the track opened up after those first 6 or 7 laps when like everybody ran the bottom, I was really impressed at him just continuing to make speed. And it's rare nowadays that truly, like, once it moves across, everybody moves across, and it's not often that you see guys actually keep making time down there. And honestly, when Blake went to third, we went basically to fourth, and then kind of waited too long to get up, let Ruschenberg back by, and then gave that straightaway to basically Han and Hank, right there. That was the difference in kind of the race. But once he moved up and made the pace that he did the first couple laps that he did, I was like, oh shit, we got a shot here. Like this, we get a yellow or they get to traffic. Like this is legitimately like his kid can go win this race. So it was cool. That was like one of the more stressful days I've had in a long time, but because I wanted him to be good so bad. And, we did okay Monday, like with the race of champions. Like our car was fine. Logan was fine. I think we were close. We just didn't win the race, but it wasn't like we had this abundance of speed and kind of picked around at some stuff between the way that I ran Axom's car that night and the way I ran Logan's car and just threw them at jets, and I think not only did that do a lot, for him that night, but like for the other 3 guys coming, it was like, oh man, like I think we've really got something if he can do that. So it was really good to like set the tone. I think, for me, as far as like, I knew he wasn't going to tune the shocks really. Like he wasn't going to mess with it as much as I drew stuff on the dash for him and like do this and like tried to get him to like, hey, as the race goes on, maybe do this or this. And then he didn't touch nothing. So it was like, it kind of forced me to like get this thing really right and don't make it where he's got to like fix it or anything. Like sometimes I do that with Logan where it's like we play safe and then let him open things and do things as we go. So it gave me like a really good baseline to be good the rest of the week of kind of where I was at all night. Just really set the tone for all of us. Still, like, there's kind of no excuses if we just repeat what he did.
On the track, if people didn't know when he got out of the car, he was 14 years old. They figured that out quickly when he had his interview. But like when he's back with you guys in the pits or helping on somewhat getting the car ready, what's that difference? Like you got Kyle Cummins on your team who is, wins USAC this past year. And then you got this 14-year-old, like, does he come off as a kid that's like, he's 40 years old, but he comes off as 14 or, how does he work? Like is from at 14 years old, you're like, dude, this kid's going to do something because he acts like something completely past what he actually is.
No, he's a 14-year-old kid.
14-year-old kid.
Yeah, like I've had him since like the beginning of December. He's lived with me basically, and I took him to PRI, and then he's kind of helped me with the cars and stuff. And then I took him and basically was his dad during shootout for what wasn't a great shootout for him at all. And basically have had him this whole time, and like he's funny. Like you never saw he was worried about anything that whole night, like at all. Most of the time it was like when I was trying to give him any kind of like serious talk, he's like, dude, I just drive the car, leave me alone. Like he didn't say leave me alone, but it was just like I don't know, it's funny with him. Like even before the B Saturday night, and I'm just kind of like, this is a feature, like take your time and do this, and I'm like, remember the knobs, like this and that, and he's like, dude, I just drive it. I'm like, okay, then don't suck, leave me, like go. So
were you like that?
With my dad, no, I couldn't be.
Yeah, fair, very fair.
Let me drive it.
But no, he's a good kid. Like I think there was times and nights where like we went through like all 5 prelim nights and Saturday last year in the shop. Like I just let him run on TV and like sat there and we kind of had like little conversations about it. And there was like a couple times where I'd pull up like an old onboard and talked about kind of how you can run around the berm a little bit. And like some of the time I wondered if any of it stuck. And I think what I do tell him does stick. I think he just kind of does it in his own like goofy way, and he just has
He's
fun
still
with
14.
it. I think some of it was just truthfully that I think he believed so much that his car was going to be good and like trusted me that I don't think he was like overly worried about it. He's like, just you do your part, I'll do my part, and we'll be fine. So it was like I kind of left him alone. Like Logan really kind of did more of the like driver coach side of it, I think Tuesday night more than anything. And I just kind of stayed out of the way and kind of told everybody to like just leave your nerves away from the kid. If any of you, like especially his dad, and it's like just try not to show it on your face. Like let's not make him anxious about any of this stuff. And I don't think it even would have mattered had we all looked like we were scared to death.
That's funny. And I gassed you up enough here, but I think that that's a testament to like what you've built and your success and everything. And I mean, clearly has worked for the kid, because it was a hell of a night to watch. And I know texting you afterwards, I don't remember verbatim what you said about when he went to the top, but it was kind of like the moment when he started ripping it up there. So that was cool. Moving to Wednesday, Emerson Axom, he didn't lose a race that night. He went 4-1 in his heat, 6-1 in the qualifier, and he won the feature from second. I mean, what can you really say about that night? What it was like working with Emerson, and I mean, yeah, you didn't lose a race that night.
Yeah, I think that's like from Tuesday, just was like a lot of confidence in our cars, and I spent, I wouldn't doubt 2 hours where I just went back and forth from Jet's car to Axom's car and just like, what was this one? What is that one? What is it? Like back and forth and had them on square blocks and everything. Like I have to match this car to that car. And basically I did that the rest of the week with all the other three. It was just like that one worked. I did some things kind of like without putting it in the, I just turned stuff more or less on Jet's car without really kind of, putting it on the square blocks and really getting the level out and things like that with like radius rods and some stuff. And so really stopped and just comparison. I normally don't take like great notes, but I took really good notes that night and then just kind of merged all that right back in. And it was like that same thing of like, I feel like in years past, I've trended like safe when it comes to heat races and even the qualifier. And it's almost got us in trouble of being like too free or expecting them to kind of open a shock or do this to kind of fix it that little bit. And like I said, with Jets, it was like I knew I had to be, to that edge kind of every time it went out. So it gave me a really good base to just, okay, I know how tight I need to be for the heat race, how tight I need to be for the qualifier, what I can get away with. And that place tends to be like, if you're not stuck, like you can't maneuver. I think it actually is, it kind of resembles like even how Knoxville is with it being so flat and so much corner. It's not like you can just free your car up. Like if you're not stuck with the back wheels, you can't stop and turn off something and drive back to the bottom or vice versa kind of thing. So it just let me get aware, and like Emerson did a great job, and things kind of fell our way when cars bounced right at the start of the heat races and the qualifiers. It let us whatever. And then, I think he was almost like scared to mess it up at the start of the feature and backed up there, for a minute. And then, kind of got his thoughts together and went back and took care of business from there.
What does it mean to you? Several times that week, he said that this is the best car I have driven here at the Chili Bowl. And he's driven a lot of good cars in the last couple of years. His confidence, at least it came across. Emerson had a little bit of a swagger to him. Like he was bad mouthing High Limit. He was saying how good the Outlaws were, all this other stuff. Like I haven't seen that from Emerson, at least in a short career so far. Did you see that a little bit? And did you feel like he knew right when he got in the car the first day that he had a piece that he knew he could win it? Same thing you were saying, that he just didn't want to mess it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, them seeing the 14-year-old kid do it right off the bat, like built a whole nother level of confidence in everybody. Like even Kyle, like Thursday, he's like, well, I guess I just got to drive the thing now. Like quit worrying about it. He's a guy that wants to always touch his car. And I think he's only ever really driven for himself. You know what I mean? So but yeah, he came back from, whatever it was after the draw when they didn't pick him and was like, look at the video. Like they didn't pick me. Can you believe that? So he was like, I'm like, cool, be pissed off. Like, I like it. Like, that's a good thing. And I think too, like if I've like working with a lot of these kids over the years, I think I've just learned how to like manage those emotions a little bit and like make them feel comfortable to like not make a mistake or just go do what they know how to do. And I think there was times where I would always try to like preface with all this information about don't do this or do this and make sure you're here and there and not this. And like kind of got to this point of like I really like sort of leave them alone and give them like one little, maybe this is where we need to be for a lap, and then you go do whatever you need to do, or just little things, and try not to like overwhelm them. And I think like for Emerson, he's had a situation with like his dad where they've spent time where he kind of works on his own stuff, and he's tuned the micro a little bit with the shocks and things like that. And so I don't really need to tell him. I just usually give him if you are too far this way, this knob is your fix, go do your job. And try not to like get them in their head. And I think I learned that, especially with like Jet and the micros, was just if you give them like too much information, they forget that they know what they're doing already, and they start trying to do things correctly. And that's not how you want a guy to race.
You get to thinking too much, and then you can't do anything. And I've talked with Kate about that, our Knoxville Nights host, and seeing him. He can sometimes ride the emotional roller coaster, and it's just like you got to try to bring him back out of it. I remember like when you were racing, you kind of always seemed you were very level, and a lot of the guys that are been very successful here recently, they kind of have that same vibe to them. Like you look at Ryan Timms, I feel like him and Emerson are pretty kind of similar demeanor wise. Taking a quick step back, probably should have done this beforehand. How did you get to 4 cars this year for the Chili Bowl?
Are you insane?
Yeah, everybody said that. It was funny. Every time I ordered parts, I was like, I got 4 of them. And somebody would be like, you're crazy. What? Aren't you like, why are you doing this to yourself? But no, Emerson's car was a conversation last Chili Bowl that was going to happen with Chris Harvey. And then I know Steyer's a little bit, and we have communication every once in a while, and kind of like, would you be interested? Do you want one almost for himself? Like really, it was just like, can I be nice? And would you like a car of mine? Like, he's like, no, I don't want, I'm too big. Like whatever, like let's hire somebody. Okay. And then, he brought Cummins kind of into it after the fact. Like I thought I was going to have to go find somebody else. And then
decent
like,
pickup.
I was going to call, and I was like, well, that works. Obviously he's coming in here with a lot of momentum, and, but yeah, so that got to 3. And then it was kind of, I kept saying I might do that. And like, it kind of kept poking at me about like, can you? And, finally just got to the point and said, or honestly, I wasn't, the only way I was going to do it was if somebody had a motor. So I think I called or texted Tim Bertrand and was just, hey, do you have another one? And would you, let me use it? And he said, yes. So then it was kind of, all right, I got no real excuses outside of just buying some parts and, just getting it off the ground. I think like that was a rebuilt rear end that we had ran last year that had an issue and got it fixed, and, some things like that. But, yeah, it's kind of not fully on purpose, but not completely on accident, I guess.
And I know we're only a couple weeks out from the most recent one, but is that something you'd plan to do again in the future, or do you not know yet?
All 4 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see any reason. Obviously, like Glenn seemed happy with his situation. I think Chris Harvey obviously isn't rushing to change anything for next year. And, I mean, unless the kid becomes a little butthole and I don't want to do it for him again, then you'll have all 4 of them.
Funny story about Jet. I actually had to kick him. I told Jordan this at the Nationals a year or 2 ago. I had to kick him out of my iRacing league a few years ago because he was running a little bit too fast. And then I didn't even realize that he was like 11 years old at the time, so he wasn't even old enough to race with us. So yeah, that's my fun Jet Barn story. Getting it back to your prelim nights. It's crazy to think that your quote unquote worst night was Thursday with Kyle Cummins, and you guys won your heat race, you won your qualifier, and went 7-5 in the feature. It sounded like all this stuff runs together, especially after watching Shootout and Chili Bowl. But am I remembering correctly? Were you guys running some issues on his qualifier or qualifying night?
Yeah, that thing would not
engine.
We showed up and none of them would run, oddly. And I brought some like different headers and some stuff, and we kind of blamed it on that. And then it was like we kept kind of searching through things, and then Jet's obviously like it ran the best of all of them the whole time. for whatever reason, it was funny to me that was like the most effortless car that I had. And it was the one that I probably put the least effort and the least new parts on. And it seemed to have like no issues whatsoever. So, but yeah, when we got there, like Kyle's wouldn't start for some, like the first time, came back and like we yanked all the stuff off of Jet's car because it had already ran that morning. The wiring harness, the box, all that stuff, put it on Kyle's, and it fired. And then it was like we had Stan check out all the wiring harness. He said the wiring harness wasn't like nothing was wrong with it. It was a brand new one, which was funny. And then kind of just fought that. By the end of the day, like Emerson's was brand new, and his had like, I think we changed plugs and plug wires and a bunch of stuff on it and got rid of a little electrical issue with that. And then kind of thought we were okay, like Race of Champions, but still everybody kind of had like a little complaint here and there. And obviously Jets, we kind of did everything to Jets. His ran, Emerson's ran. And then Thursday it was okay to start. And it was like the warmer it got and the more we ran it, almost that it got worse. And like he was okay in the qualifier. I think if I remember right, we actually fired it pre-qualifier, trying to get it to fit, like playing with low speed and some stuff because wouldn't take off and it was weird, and changed that. He thought it was better. Obviously, we just ran around by ourselves kind of in the qualifier, so you're not really in and out of the gas and things like that, and just it didn't seem bad. And then he was, I think, kind of okay at the start of the race, and like if you ever go look back, like you'll see he just never ran a lap on the bottom, and it was because he literally was scared if he slowed down, it would just fall on its face. And even running around the top some of the time, it struggled, and kind of honestly would clean itself out of sorts after it ran for a minute, which is odd because we worried about the battery and different things, and obviously they don't charge themselves as they go. So if anything, it should get worse on that end. And still aren't really sure what was wrong with it, but kind of those last restarts, like it would take 2 or 3 laps for it to kind of get out whatever it had to even run okay. And so those like 2 or 3 lap runs there killed us, because honestly it was like 10 laps in, I think, and we got to 4th, and I was like, I looked up and I'm like, this is going to be easy again. Like he's going to drive right to these guys. And we kind of did drive up to him, and then he made a couple of mistakes. And I think that was just, he was always having to be like way ahead of himself on making sure he had the wheels spinning. And obviously that was like the sketchiest, kind of roughest, almost run above at night. So it was probably the worst night to have that issue too. But yeah, I think if we go green to the end there at the end, there was probably a decent shot of, the worst we run is 4th, and probably I'd say anywhere, depending on how the scrum kind of worked out, we could have ran, at least 2nd without issues. And then just those restarts kind of killed us. So we even took that thing he went to Port City with it Friday morning and tried a bunch of stuff. They thought they fixed it, and he's like, let's do it one more time now that it's set here for a minute, and then it wouldn't run again. So it was really odd. And like we ended up maybe thinking the battery. So I bought 4 batteries for all 4 cars. We put new batteries and everything before even Logan's night, thinking like maybe there was an issue. And then the B was okay. And then he said like halfway through the feature Saturday, it got really bad again. And it wasn't even the same like issue. It was like another version of where it was like if he was wide open, then it was weird. Like it wouldn't run wide open all of a sudden. He was like, I had to like backpedal to get it to run. So no
Besides
idea.
tearing shit apart, what do you do to figure that out?
The only thing it shouldn't have mattered because it's not really connected to anything on the inside of the engine. But like when they picked it up, like it came from Stanton on a freshen, and ran on the dyno. It fell over in a truck, I guess, before it got to me and knocked the little coil box off. But that's not connected to anything internally. So I got a new coil box and like new wires and everything, but that shouldn't have affected it. And we even put a new one on for Saturday of that, still had issues. So just one of those, you just run out of time to like really figure out how to fix it. And I think we did about everything you could do during that week to try to fix it, and just still never found it.
Frustrating.
We're covered on Friday. You get the win with Logan Seavey. What makes him so good? I mean, obviously multi-time champion. He owns Friday. Like Friday is just named Logan Seavey Day over there at Tulsa. But what makes him so good for you, and what he can do at the Expo Center?
I think he just, me and him have been at it in there for a while now. It goes back to like 2020 or 2021, with my dad's stuff for 2 or 3 years there. And, we ran 4th from the B, 1 year, which I think by halfway we were damn near getting lapped and drove up through there kind of at the end. And so we've kind of had little things where we understand each other pretty well, I think, when it comes to all that. And like we've learned some stuff of what to do and what not to do. And, I think now it's that, he's got a lot of confidence in that thing. And it was kind of the same thing of, he knew what he had those first 2 years. We missed a little bit last year. Kind of, it seemed like tires changed and some stuff, and the old stuff didn't work fully anymore. And we just never caught up to it with how little laps we ended up having, during the week with one car. So, but no, it's like Kyle even mentioned it of like, he never looks concerned in there anymore at all. Like he knows it's going to be okay. And I think it's like the same thing. You watch Jet, then watch Emerson Wednesday, and even Kyle run as good as he did with some issues. And it's like, as long as mine's close, like we're going to be fine. And I actually tried to ruin his Friday a little bit. I had his right rear shock cables flipped over. So he thought he was changing rebound. He was changing compression and vice versa. And we actually did the complete opposite of what he thought he was doing during the race Saturday, which it's funny because he says in his interview, I changed a couple clicks and it came to life. And it's like, you were doing the opposite of what
Put that down in the notepad there. So before we get into Saturday, what was it like seeing that dynamic, going from, maybe 1 or 2 cars, but then you have 4 guys, you cover the age spectrum there. What was it like, being a part of something like that instead of just kind of only worrying about one guy, one team, and then you got, let alone, a 14-year-old thrown into the mix too, and seeing, because we've seen some pictures and some video of like Logan interacting with Jet, and I thought that was really cool. Instead of having I want to beat my teammate no matter what, but seeing him actually helping coach him and stuff, I think that speaks a lot for Logan. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of set the tone of all of that with, he jumped right in and kind of helped the learning curve of how our stuff drives on Monday with Kyle and Emerson. And then, it was obviously a big part of Jet that night, and kind of did the same thing for Emerson, honestly, and went down there and was like, kind of, I don't know, Emerson looked at us and was like, "What do you guys do for signals?" And we just kind of like, "We don't, dude. Like, you better watch the screen and figure it out yourself." Like, that's how we've always done it. And he kind of laughed. So he actually got Logan to go down there and kind of do that to some extent for him. And I think that was maybe what helped there once we backed up at the beginning, is I think Logan just looked at him and was like, "Just get going, dude. Like, you're fine." But yeah, it was like Monday was hard. Like, Sunday, obviously, we kind of went through the learning curve of, oh God, there's 4 of them on one day, like back and forth to one another. And like, it took me a minute to kind of honestly just keep up with where I was at on each car. Cause I'm really good at just everything's in my head. And like, I do A, B, and C. And then I come back the next day and I know I left car at, C. Then if I want to put it back to B, I just go back that way. But if you can't remember what C was on one of the cars, it's hard to go back. And like, it's a bar is really easy to like just unwind it, wind it back up, see where you're at, put it back in. But a coil takes a minute because you got to take your helper off and, reset. And it just takes a lot more effort to really get like your zero back on a coil and find where you were and vice versa. So it was like a few things of how to remember where I'm at, and then how to remember, exactly or what the best way of kind of keeping track of all that was. And I went through a few versions of that, but yeah, once we got back to like 1 a night, it was no big deal. Then it was kind of easy for me, but I know everybody probably assumes that they're all different and they all want a different race car and this, and like, they honestly, like, they ran the exact same duplicate of a race car, all of them. And I think even like Kyle was like a little bit surprised, because obviously, it's like Logan and Jet are 130 pounds. Kyle's like 175 pounds. And then Emerson somewhere in the middle of it. And there's like some minor tweaks just for the size of them. But there's like, the more we went all week, the more it was like, stop trying to fix it for the size for whatever reason. It was kind of odd. Like, I got really concerned once we put fuel in them Saturday of like everybody's weight. And then those guys were in the infield. And then like, I've got random people in the cars to drive them down the hill. And I'm looking at people going, "How much do you weigh?" Like, and running back and measuring everybody's cars and trying to figure all that out. so all that was a learning experience, but like dealing with each one of them was easy. Like Emerson kind of showed up like he was, you know, how he was supposed to be. It was just a hired guy to show up and win the race, and he showed up and he did his job. You know, me and Logan have a rapport, and that's super easy now. And like Jet could have cared less about what he had, just give me fast car and let me do my job. And it took Kyle a minute to kind of let go. Like he almost wanted to have a big opinion, and I need this. And I think he sort of admitted towards the end, he was like, I've usually have to try a lot harder here to like keep up. And he's like, now I've like, this is the first time I've had a car that kind of keeps up by itself to where I can just like slow down and I don't have to overdo and stuff. And I think he probably, obviously the motor thing, but he wishes he could probably go back and start over a little bit with a little clearer mind to just like let the car be good in some regards. So it was neat though to like, I've never experienced obviously more than one of my cars on the racetrack at the same time. You know, Monday was fine because they all sort of stayed away from each other. And then here we go Saturday, and now all of a sudden we got two of them racing for the win. So
let's talk about that. Going down the backstretch, like 3-4 to go, Emerson bobbles just a little bit, and defensive mechanism kicks in. He has to get down and cover his line, and Logan's down there, and they almost get together, and Logan gets into JG. I mean, you said, you're like, well, not being near each other, but in those moments, are you like, oh shit, we just wrecked? I mean, both my cars are gone. Or did you have faith that Logan would be the guy that would be like, okay, he's got me covered, I'm gonna back out? Like, walk us through those last couple laps, because it's like, oh gosh, let's at least bring them home, if anything.
Yeah, it was, you know, like the beginning of the race, obviously it's, you know, you get in line and ride. And honestly, I was watching Jet. I kind of like, okay, he got by Larson and they all kind of got in line there. And I was like, they're log laps, and kind of paid attention to Jet there for a little while. And then it's like when Kyle left, it's okay, now we're first and second. And it's kind of, it's weird. Like I've had this, you know, me and Logan against the world side of this for like the last few years. And like, that's like my baby of a car. And then we built this other one that's same thing, but it's like, it's different. And, you know, it's a whole nother thing. So it was weird figuring out like where my emotions fell for who's going to win or what happens. And like, there was a part of me that was just like, just don't run into each other and let one of them go by both of us. And like, that was my biggest concern. And that racetrack got to where like, if you took a shot at a guy, like a lot of times you were getting passed if it didn't stick. You know, that's kind of what happened to Logan at one point, was he took a shot and then he didn't protect, you know, the next end, and Grant got by him, and, you know, that's when he got to second. And then we kind of did the same thing back to him. But I think there at the end, it was like, can we get away? And then like that last little sequence, we got away, like we got gapped, and it was like, okay, they're going to finish it between them. And I feel like I let my guard down of like, we're going to run 1-2. It's just what order. I don't like, cool. And literally, I feel like I looked back to like see where, you know, Grant and Dayson and whatever was behind us. And like, I missed Emerson trip off of 2, and like turned my eyes back to like literally them two going to the infield together. And it was just like, oh my God, this went from so easy to like, now please don't, like, let's not both get beat, basically. You know, and then all of a sudden now you got restarts and everything else, and you start worrying about fuel and all that as long as we had ran, and just, it became like not horribly stressful there for a little bit to like terribly stressful that last, you know, sequence.
Doesn't have to be this hard.
And the like, it didn't take off that one time for Logan. And I don't know if it was a combination of just our stuff being weird that week on top of, you know, probably low fuel and him getting up on the mound a little bit taken off. But yeah, I think penalty. And honestly, I was like more comfortable with Dayson than I was with KT, because I knew exactly where KT was. And it was like, if these two get to race each other, like he's going to snooker by both of them now. And it was just like new nightmares kept evolving, where it went from, you know, Grant being really good to like Dayson's going to sell out for the, you know, kill this thing or win. You know, now all of a sudden we've got like the new evil of just somebody going to be putting around the bottom while we race our ass off on the top. So it's a long, like 10 or 15 minutes there.
Can't see, but you probably got a few extra gray hairs watching that thing, it sounds like. Speaking of the stumble and Dayson's penalty, what do you think of that? Just kind of the way it played out, you know, from, you know, you've driven as well, obviously. And from Logan's seat versus Dayson's seat. What was your take on that whole situation?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's obviously we've watched guys not get going a bunch of times over the years, and like you just wait.
Yeah,
So there's like part of me that's just like,
it's the rule, right?
stuff
So
happens, and you just have to wait. Like, there's never gonna be a world where you drive by a guy coming to the cone and they're just okay about it. So there's like part of me that doesn't really hate that that's exactly how it was called, and like, does it sort of ruin a race to an extent because of the gap that is now built? But like, isn't that sort of part of racing? And then at the same time, I think if you're gonna throw the yellow and bring it back, I don't really know if you penalize the guy to some extent. I think in a perfect world, it's like they should have let it go, or he should have waited and should have just dealt with the scenario of like, it didn't take off. Like if a guy spins the tires up there the same way, like it seems worse because it was a stumble, right? Because the motor didn't take off. But had Logan tried to take off on the top and tripped and threw the nose and drove the right front up the fence, like that's just what happened. Like, good for Emerson for taking off up there and not tripping. The guy tripped behind him. Now he's got a big gap. Like that's just how racing works. And I think that's some of the reason that you do take off up there to some extent is like, as long as you do it correctly from the lead, and obviously it's easier when you're not having to like guess when the guy is going to take off and react. That's some of the benefit of being up there is like you're trying to get a guy to make a mistake to some extent. So I don't know. Like there's no perfect answer. It's it's kind of like how a lot of these NFL games end lately, where it's just like it kind of could be called either way. Like, would you rather them just let them play? Like, sure, but
well, it's all scripted, so
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Honestly, I would err on the side of it is the rule. Dayson passed him. Like it is what it is. And to a point, you could almost, Logan didn't go either. Like you could almost make an argument if you're penalizing people, like what's that look like? But you make a great point with the spin in the tires. It's not any different at that, when it boils down to the guy didn't go. So I don't know. It sucks for Dayson. Like that really, it would have been cool seeing him battling it out, with those guys. But, that shit happens and you have to live with it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that that's now I think this maybe third time that we've had like a restart violation next to Logan in the last few years. Like, I think, what was it? Snyder.
What's going on?
Yeah, it was Snyder that like he didn't get going on the top.
Yeah.
And that was actually one where he just tripped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just spun the tires and tripped trying to take off on the top, and it didn't work. And he met him at the cone and like that. So I don't know. Like
you're trying to win the Chili Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was this time like with Emerson, the winner? Obviously you've experienced it here with Logan, and you've had your fair share of success there. But this one feel any different emotionally? Just celebrate any differently?
I mean, the third one, obviously, it's like dumbed down to some extent. Like it'll never be like the first one was, and then the second one's kind of this like, oh, we did it again. It wasn't lucky thing, and I think that was the same way it felt for me when I won 1, then 2, then 3 was kind of like you're supposed to do this in a way. So no, I mean it's neat to see like him get to win as opposed to Logan being like the third one, because probably for Logan it would have been the same way of just like this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I came to do, and I took care of business. Whereas like Emerson, this is I just fulfilled my dream, like, and you can see like the emotion to him, and I think I just got to sit back and kind of like enjoy that through him as opposed to me being like incredibly excited. Which I think some of that is it's like for me that was the first time where obviously 2 cars, they're both racing up there. And in a way, it's like I let Logan down because we didn't win. But like, wait a second, I won the race with Emerson. So it's like it was a weird emotion for me to actually try to like even feel how I was supposed to feel, because like I wanted to find Logan and have like that, like, what did we do wrong debrief, and like, how did I fail you sort of like, could we have been better thing? And then it was like, on the other hand, like we just led 51 laps or whatever and handled business. So it's, like it took kind of like a wave of things to go through with that. And like, I think in the back of my mind too, it was like, we let Jet down because somehow, I don't know what, he runs more brake than anybody I've ever had in a midget first. I've never seen a midget record glow, and he made him glow. And I don't know if that had something to do with it or not, but it definitely broke the brakes off that thing. And he ran it around there for 10 or 15 laps of that race with no brakes, I guess. So what he did was even cooler in that regard. And Haiti
Freaking
got him.
gasser, man.
But yeah, it was a lot of emotions because even hell, Kyle was into the top 10 and, just kind of tripped and made a mistake. And, it's cool to look back though and think that we literally probably easily could have ran in the first 8 cars or better, with all 4 of them really.
And you're always going to have that kind of emotional roller coaster too, because you're only going to have one winner potentially. So that's probably the tough thing, I guess. There, who got Jet to shotgun the victory fuel before driver intros?
I guess it was Grant and like Larson and Logan in a pile down there, and like he had the can, and I think I don't know if you saw the press conference thing when they sat down at the press conference on Tuesday. Like Hank and Blake grabbed the bottles of water, and he like looks around like, "That for us?" And like literally looks at Blake and said, "Is that mine?" Like, can I? I was like, "Oh, cool." But I think like we gave him obviously a can to walk across with, and I think he got down there and was like, "What do I do? Do I drink it? Do I hold it? Do I what?" And somebody was like, "Oh, just like shotgun it." And then I guess it's a little video somewhere of like
you didn't know how to do it.
Like I think Grant got a rock out and broke the top in with him. He's like, "Here, just this and that," and like Kyle said something to him about it, and he's like, "Am I going to get?" I think he said, "Am I going to get in trouble too in the process of it?" But yeah, I didn't know anything. I think I was at Cummins' car, kind of having like a pre-race for a second there, and like everybody goes nuts, and like I kind of looked. I didn't even get to see it in real time, and somebody said he just shotgunned the victory fuel. Jesus,
that's amazing.
He was internet gold for a week.
Just living his best life, man. I love to see it.
It's crazy. I want to kind of move on to a little bit more just other stuff that's happened in your career, both as a car owner and whatnot. We had Spencer Bayston on a couple of weeks ago, and he said that one of his favorite wins was with you, the first SpeedLab dub. Like, what do you? First of all, that's all. When we first heard that, like, I thought he'd say an outlaw show, something like that. Like that, he truly said he's like, that was one of my favorite wins and probably his favorite win of all time. What do you remember about that night? Because Spencer, he remembers it vividly and just how much he knew that meant to you and how much it meant to him.
Yeah, no, I remember that a lot. Like that was, we hadn't run but like 4 or 5 races, like total, at that point. And, he was only held 8 or 10 maybe into the sprint car side of things, if that, at that point. So, it was cool. That was still very pieced together. Like it was basically just me and Joe in the truck, driving the truck and trailer there that week from Memphis. Like we were still at my dad's shop. Didn't have a lot of stuff. My buddy from Pennsylvania and his dad drove over to help us. And, like we had it was one of those kind of didn't know what I didn't know at that point, and we kind of winged it on a little bit of this and that, and had a really good car on like a Friday night show of that deal, and then came back Saturday and kind of just like we felt like we knew where to be for Saturday, and being like Attica and an all-star show back then, like that was hard races to win. 40 lap race at Attica, that place is like it's slick, and I think to do it with those cars, with him that fast in his stuff, and us as well, like it was really cool. And I remember sitting there in the infield just nervous as hell of like just get the laps through, because we drove way away from him at one point in that race, and I think it got down to like 6 or 7 to go, and had to have a yellow, of course, and bring them back to us. And that was like prime Schaefer in the 49X and Dale Blaney and those guys all, when it was you're just waiting for somebody to drive through no man's land right by you on a restart. And thing was good that night, and he did a good job. And it was like really cool to do that, especially with him that soon in the progression of everything, and to kind of make our mark on that. And then we won a Ohio Speed Week race that year, Muskegum too and stuff. So that was fun that year with him. I think it was one of those, he was still kind of like Jet was at that point, where it was just like, I don't care what the car drives, like I'm just going to drive it. And I think that was sometimes is like the best point of some of these guys' career, honestly, is when they don't think, they don't need to be, I need to be laid left more, I need to do this, my brain doesn't like when it feels like this, like there's not things in their mind, and they just go race. And I think like obviously he's way more polished of a race car driver now, but I think kind of that whole year of just like I just get in the car and stomp, like was some of his best work, honestly.
Got a couple things, but I guess we'll take a quick step back on how did all of that get started? Did you know that you wanted to build up your race team with SpeedLab and want to go wing racing, or was that something you were just kind of meandering in and then you and Spencer get together and let's go racing, or how did that all unfold?
Yeah, that year I was kind of like, I was still in rehab in Louisville, at that point, or I guess not the year that we won those races, but the year before, up until probably towards the end of the year. And like we built that car in Louisville at Will Kimmel that used to run ARCA, or still does, I guess, in their shop in Louisville, actually, and ran those first couple of races with that. But yeah, I was doing some stuff with PPM that year on their car, when it was his stepdad stuff, and Spencer had came and ran another car. So I sort of took care of Spencer through like his first like 5 or 6 like actual wing races, and kind of had a relationship there, and they wanted to do more. And obviously, Parker's and them were trying to figure out what they were going to do. And just ended up, together with his dad on wanting to race. And, at that point, obviously I didn't have anything, so it was going to take some help to really get going. And they were open to kind of do that and get us started. And, that was when he was still full-time in the midget, but kind of wanted to give him a little bit of transition. And I think that was kind of right in that era where Keith was really big on like the wing cars make them better too, and I think it did that year. Like that was the year he won like Eldora and Belleville and a bunch of stuff, especially the big tracks in the midget, and won the championship. So it definitely did its job. And, it's not just kind of all sort of fell into place with running into them sort of in that other situation. And then, him needing somewhere to be. And we kind of wanted to do it. Like I was at a point where I didn't know what I was going to do. Like I had to kind of figure out something to do for the future. And like outside of just, showing up at the racetrack and doing a few things with different people, that's kind of all I'd done to that point. And it just sort of all made sense with some sponsor help and different things to try to make it work. And like at that point, I just, borrowed a trailer, I borrowed this and that. And we just kind of built a car, and like I rented a motor and everything like that. We didn't really start too aggressively with all of it, and just kind of see how it went. And I mean, that was the only good part back then, was you could buy a $25,000 motor and it'd get you qualified in an outlaw race, and obviously that is not the case now. Like a $25,000 motor ran a 14.8 at the Knoxville Nationals that year with Spencer, you know what I mean? And like to think now that you got to have something that's like 70 grand to do that is, it's kind of what's made us race less, I guess, at this point, of just the expense of everything. But yeah, back then it was just so much more feasible to do it all and kind of give it a try, I guess, more than anything. And yeah, that whole year was honestly a lot of fun.
You have a favorite driver that you've worked with in a sprint car? One that's just kind of gelled with just a little bit more, or anything that stands out?
Blake's too nice. Pick your favorite that you worked with.
Wait, no, I didn't want to go that far.
I'm going. Let's go.
No, I've always enjoyed Logan racing, obviously. Like, me and him have been friends since he was, in an outlaw cart. And
did he run your wing car?
He hasn't. We have tried like so many times, and it's always like we run into USAC races. Like I've tried for 360 Nationals. There's always a USAC race. Like, and he kind of always wants to do stuff like ahead of time so that he's a little bit prepared too, and never wants to just jump in cold turkey. But no, I mean, we've had a bunch of different people at this point. Like Bell was always fun because he just showed up, put his helmet on, and drove the hell out of the thing most of the nights. Like Pittman was a lot of fun to race with. It was challenging, being that, he's older and he kind of needs a specific thing. And it sort of pushed me to figure out some new things that I think has actually helped me, with everything else. And, but like Spencer, a few times, like we brought him back randomly at like a Lincoln race there the one year after we hadn't raced with him for like a year and a half, and won right off the bat. And so it's a lot of different things. I think honestly, like Jet is a lot of fun now. Like I feel like the younger some of these guys are, the more like enjoyable it kind of is. And like to see them enjoy it and sort of learn and stuff, I think the younger side of all of them is fun. Like now Logan's kind of the old guy almost to everything. But, when he first started with us, he wasn't very old either. So
We're not that old, damn it. Come on, man.
I am.
You're not that, but I think we're the same age. Either way, we're not that old, okay? Speaking of all those guys, I mean, I had taken some notes down, and I couldn't even remember all of them. What's it mean that you were able to work with those guys, and then you see the success that, I mean, all of them have been successful. Like, what's that mean to you as as a owner, crew chief, friend? Like, that's got to be pretty rewarding. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but pretty rewarding seeing what you guys were able to do together, but then also what these guys are doing now in their own careers.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously, developed to some extent a few guys that have gone on to do some good stuff. And, obviously like getting to do that with Jet so quick right there was hopefully a testament to kind of some of that and the little bit of I've been able to do with him over these last few years. But it's neat, like kind of having that diverse group of guys and chasing different things for some of them. And, it's taught me a lot. I think like those first couple of years, even with like Spencer, I was like, I had sort of my one way of doing things, and like, we didn't really chase much else. It was like it worked or it sort of didn't. And, once getting away from him and like the little bit with, my dad obviously is very different from what used to be a feel. And, some of these guys like Bell has kind of a tune in of different things. And like, we worked a lot kind of through the motor stuff when like Bell was around, and even with Pittman, and found a way to, really detune stuff with the sprint cars that worked really well. And you kind of learn different things. And honestly, like with some of those guys, even like Sanders, you can kind of, how did you do something, here, or when you're with this guy, or when you went to this place, like this worked for me. And it just having those conversations sometimes, even if it doesn't turn into like, I did that to the car, that night or at all, like you kind of just learn things from everybody, and just hearing how they've gotten to point A and point B of stuff. And, I think I've had a good bit of guys that kind of have, to some extent, worked on their own stuff, or have really taken a accountability when they've driven for people to some extent of the choices that were made, and, sort of know what is going on, as opposed to just, I got in and drove it and that car was good. Like they can actually tell you like, this was probably why this one did this at this place and things. So, just getting to learn from kind of a little bit of difference from all those, and then having to chase down what makes each guy have speed sometimes is, it's kind of developed what I'm able to do, I feel like, now more than ever.
Yeah. We're Knoxville guys, so I just got to throw this in there. Locking into the Knoxville Nationals, and then obviously the success you've had at the Chili Bowl. Is it a comparable type of emotion that you've been through?
Yeah, I mean, it's like getting in, especially like, we brought Sanders there and he like never hardly seen the place, and to get in and like have that kind of like.
It's my favorite looking car I've ever seen, by the way. The diecast right back here. I love that car.
That white and P car was cool. Yeah, I think it's really neat. But yeah, getting him in and like seeing him realize that he just made the race, alone. And, Chili Bowl's not quite that. And like, I even tell people like Eldora stuff, like there's not that like ambiance to it the way that Knoxville is. And there's like, it's not even, you almost got to win a race at Eldora for it to be like really special. Whereas like Knoxville, just getting in the race is like cool, and being down there and like knowing you're locked in on Saturday, sitting in your, in your stall, like backed in, ready to push for, heat and everything. Like it's a different thing. And like, I think, doing that with those guys, it kind of like, that built a confidence in me too, and just getting a monkey off my back. Cause we just, every year we had just terrible luck at getting in that race, and something would happen when, we draw bad, or we, just whatever, and had bleeders die randomly, like in the prelim features, or just dumb stuff that happened, that kind of just hindered us, and always were right there on the edge of getting in. And, especially those couple of years with like Dad, when we felt like we were like really good, we just, something would happen on Friday or whatever. So yeah, it's neat. It's definitely different. And obviously I've never had like a successful Saturday night there to end. Like always battled, something, or like with Sanders, I think stripped a pump drive or whatever kind of early in that one. I didn't really get to see it through. But yeah, it was neat. Like it was, Hunter was, so excited to get himself in. And, it's almost like when I've been there a lot of years, it's been with like a guy who's gotten cast off, kind of coming in, maybe even to an extent, and then to give them a shot and kind of let them show what they can do. And that's always fun of just like, I think this guy can go good with a good car. I mean, hell, the first year we won the Chili Bowl, Logan got fired, coming into that basically from, what was it, Rodella's deal or whatever. So, and that changed everything. And then he goes and wins like every USAC race the next year. So it's funny how, those things can change, and makes me feel like I can see through bad cars to guys that do, well, from the driver's seat.
Yeah, I mean, and you see guys that have gone on and done their own thing, like we were just talking about. Like, there's a lot of guys having a lot of success that you've worked with, and I think that's a testament to what you guys have built and your abilities as well. We going to see wing car out there again in the future?
I don't know, man. It's
you plant a money tree back there?
Yeah, it's so damn expensive. That's the wild part of all this is, it's probably easier to get somebody to give you sponsor money for just Chili Bowl than it is to get sponsor money for like, hey, I want to go run 20 races.
Yeah.
And they're almost the same number typically of like what you can get out of people these days, unless you stumble into something, legitimately corporate that's ready to spend like 6 figures. So that's the battle of it. It's, what it does pay better, but tires are almost $400 a tire now. And your rebuilds are, probably 40% higher than what they used to be. And so it's just, you got to be prepared to spend $4 or $5 grand just to drop the trailer door a night to like really compete. And I think the hardest part of it now for me and the way we've done things over the years is there's just not the like floater guys that can do the job sitting around as much as there were. And, obviously it was made easier by like when Bell would show up and race a little bit with me or this and that. But like, obviously like Spencer's locked in, like I've taken Parker a couple of times, but all these guys have like full-time deals, and you can't blame them for, they got to find something that's as full-time as they can get to make all of it work. So just hard to find a guy that can show up and race with like gravel and those guys night in and night out. And you sort of have to have a program, ready to do that too, and ready to like come back from hot laps and change the gear and change this and make sure the stagger was right and get it turned over and turn back around and get up there to qualify. Because it's like if you're on the backside of the 10th bracket a lot of the time, like it's the difference between being on the front row of the heat race and, maybe missing the invert. So you just have to be so turned on, with everything you're doing and even the guys that are helping you and everything to really do it. And, even that turnaround a lot of times from like the dash to the feature or especially a B to the feature, and really getting your stuff done and getting, a lot of times it's all you can do just to get fuel and whatever in. And then if you want to, do this or that and try to actually be better to drive up through there, like it's just hard now. And it's not that it can't be done. It's just, you just really have to have a good night. And, even sometimes a good night is, if you draw an 8 and like, there's only so much you can do if you put a couple of, you put the 2 and the 41 or something on the front row a lot of those nights.
You're screwed at that point. So that's maybe we'll see in the future. not quite sure.
They were like, obviously they're like everybody's poking at me about Jet, trying to get him racing. Like I would enjoy that, and obviously there's only so much we can go race with how old he is, right now. So we'll see. I think it's kind of the money thing is where it comes back to. If we can get it handled, and like I'm not leveraging my life to some extent to go gamble to see if we can turn a purse money around some of the time, then it's fun. Like when it's kind of like you're just swinging for the hell of it. It's not so much fun. But like when you do stuff, especially like that, where it's going to help a kid's career, then it becomes a different story.
Yeah. And I want to be respectful of your time, of course. So I only had one other thing that, again, it kind of is in the Knoxville scene as well. You've won a 410 sprint car race there. You didn't win a midget race, right? But you ran a midget.
I won the last midget race.
2009.
Yeah. Oh,
come on, Josh.
Right. Well, I remember you took a hell of a tumble in turn one time as well. Describe the difference between driving a 410 wing sprint car at Knoxville versus a midget.
the midget's honestly fun. Like I like the midget there a lot. Like I know it's kind of gone away of like the big track stuff with those, but like I loved Eldora and like Knoxville and some of these bigger places we got to run. And shoot, what was that? There was somewhere out in Nebraska that we used to go to that was fairly big, like the Cornhusker Midget Challenge or whatever it was. I forget what the racetrack is, but those places were fun. Like the midget, honestly, like we ran there a couple times when it was probably a little too wet for what we needed it to be, and like you feel like you are just sailing off in places to try to like slide a guy, and it's almost like a little scary because if you get the berm wrong with those things, like you're in big trouble too. But
End up on Highway 14.
yeah. But like when it's slick and like you can actually spin the tires and stuff, and you have to slow down a little bit to hit the bottom and everything, like that place was honestly a lot of fun. And like that night that I won there, I think, you know, we all were kind of running on the bottom of 3 and 4, but you were running way up almost against the fence in 1 and 2, or at least I was towards the end there. And it like it's really neat. Like in, you know, I can't imagine what it'd be like with today's motors like back then. And that was, you know, God knows how old of an S-Slinger ran that thing at that point. So I'm sure it's 30, 40 or more horse down from what we're running in these things today. So honestly, like I wish they would do more of that stuff. Like I think we went away from it because everybody was in such a kind of mismatch of engine packages back then. And, you know, some of that stuff would only run on the big stuff. And, you know, some of it, like, I remember we'd go to a lot of those places and there was like, everybody had a different level of takeoff. Like some guys couldn't take off to save their life, and starts were kind of a mess. And, you know, I think that was why it sort of disappeared, there was kind of haves and have nots pretty bad back then, but now everybody's either got a Toyota or an SR11. So you know, it's probably really back in the cards now if you could just get, you know, the amount of cars that you need to make it worth it. But that stuff to me was a lot of fun. And, you know, Knoxville there was a lot of fun because it's very different. And if you're used to a 410 there at all, I mean, it feels really slow to the point that like you're really in control as much as, you know, you're probably a little more out of control, being a little more sideways and not having the downforce and the grip. But yeah, I loved it. Like that was one of those I hated we didn't keep going back.
So Blake, it sounds like we got somebody that's ready to bring back the midgets, get Silver Crown to
Dude,
Knoxville.
there's so much they got to bring back. Silver Crown. We need the 100-lap race. We got the midgets coming back. Knoxville's taking a turn.
Love it.
Awesome.
What else you got, Blake? Anything?
I got nothing else. I know he's probably starving, so we're gonna get him to dinner. Kevin, we appreciate your time so much, man.
We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, and we congratulate you once again on the Chili Bowl, and we appreciate it so much for joining us here tonight.
Yep, thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome, thank you so
don't
much.
Don't run
Kevin,
away yet. No, I was just reminding Kevin, don't run away quite yet. Again, make sure that you guys are subscribed on the YouTubes. Hit the like button, share it, get it in front of as many people as we can. Create yourself a Dirt Vision account so you can watch Knoxville Nights there as well. I'm at Josh_Gerlach on Twitter. He's at Blake_Walker8, and you're at Kevin Swindell, right? All right. That'll do it for Sprint Car Nights. We'll be back next week on Monday with Knoxville Nights. Take care, everybody.